bus company. I went up to where I was stationed for about $1.50 and back to Honolulu.
Brought it back.
I think I found the Company D. I'm not sure. I talked to some of the fellows in there. They didn't remember anything. All they were young boys, and they had just gone in the service. And, but I'm glad that they still have a service at Hawaii there for protection of our United States. They're part of it too.
Mr. Howard, I was going to ask you, do you ever think at all about the men you fought against? About the Japanese at all?
Well, not particular. They had a job to do that their country wanted to do, and they were involved just like we were involved. They got us involved, and so don't have any harsh words for them or anything else. But like I said, I'm just glad that we got through it.
I was going to ask, to kind of conclude a little bit of the interview, I know you're a man of strong Christian faith, and what got you through World War II? What in your mind, I know God had a hand in it, but what in your mind helped get you through each day when you had to dig those foxholes each day and, fear for your life every moment? What got you through the Pacific?
Well, like you said, the Lord was with us all the time. He protected us for one reason or another. And his reason for me was to come back to Piedmont and raise a family, I guess.
That's right.
So,
you raised a good one.
Yeah.
Mr. Howard, we thank you very much for your service and for your stories, and are very appreciative of your time in the military and serving in World War II. And thank you very, very much for doing the interview.
Thank you very much for coming.
Medal, the Victory Medal, World War II, the Philippine Independence Medal, the Philippine Liberation Medal, and the Philippine Presidential Unit Citation. Tell me a little bit about those medals. You received those after the war, and are there any stories that you have with them that you could share about why you received the medals, or I mean, some of them are stated, but for example, the Bronze Stars or the Philippine Presidential Citation?
Well, I received those medals just because I was in the Army and in the war. But one of them there is I only got one, but I thought I'd lost it, and I ordered another one, so I had two of the same one. So, but I appreciate the United States that gave us those medals.
A little bit something. And let me think here if there's anything else. Well, I would like to ask you here. You've lived here the rest of your time in Piedmont, you said. And are you a part of the Veterans Foreign Wars at all here? Is there an organization here?
American Legion and the Veterans of Foreign Wars. I belong to that.
And as having served in the military, we all recognize how really precious our freedom is, and how thankful we are to the veterans who have given so much. Looking today, going forward, one of the things that saddens me most is that I feel a lot of American youth, it's such a removed thing, and as World War II in the 40s slipped farther and farther into the past, what is the most important thing to you that you tell America's youth about World War II and about the military? Is there anything you'd have to say on that?
Well, the main thing is that we thank God for the opportunity to be able to protect our country. And we all were there to save our own lives and still trying to help the other people to keep a invasion of the United States from happening. So, and we lose a lot of veterans every day. Last I heard was over 1,100 that passes away on a daily basis. And I don't know how much longer we can last with that. But I appreciate the opportunity to serve my country. And I thank the Lord for bringing me back to Piedmont, God's country.
That's right. Well, I'm glad He brought you back. And looking back too, is there anything that you're very proud of with your service in the United States, just that you contributed to? I mean, you were a part of really, one of the most incredible fights of all time, and I mean, it helped. I mean, really impacted the world forever. Do you ever think about that at all, or?
No, I think about those ships that we lost in the Second World War at Pearl Harbor. And one ship, it's about 2,500 men that are bodies are still under the water, under the bottom of that ship. And some reason or another, I don't know how, but that ship still leaks oil after 70 years.
It's still around. And
I think it'll be 70.
You went and saw it?
71 years.
We took him over.
So you've been back to Pearl Harbor to go look
Yes,
at the
I
Arizona?
went back in 1988. Went back to Hawaii.
How much had it changed?
Quite a bit.
I bet. No barbed wire.
No barbed wire.
And grown.
We stayed pretty close to the beach, right?
He went back to Schofield Barracks, too.
Schofield Barracks, and is there still a base at Schofield Barracks as well, or?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I figured so.
I asked a taxi driver about to carry me to Schofield Barracks from Honolulu. It's about $70 or $80, I bet it was. I called it. Ended up.
And you were married in what year to your wife?
45.
45. All right. So she had been there with everything. And when did you first have your first child?
19, and well, the first one we lost.
I hate to hear that.
And Al's wife Gloria, we had her in 19 and 49. 49 and one in 52.
Okay. I mean, it kept you busy with
But
between baseball and.
yeah, I finally went to work with the post office in 19, and before that I went to work in Georgia with building contractors. Al, what was the name of that? They had an office in Greenville. They built shell houses, and well, anyway, they were in Valdosta, Georgia, the home office. And I worked there several months, and finally got a job in 1963 and went to work to the United States Post Office in Piedmont, South Carolina. And I worked there for 22 years.
And you enjoyed it?
Enjoyed it. Got to know a lot of people, and worked with a fine group of people.
Did you run into a lot of World War II vets in your time as a postman?
A good many. We had a good many here in Piedmont.
How many from your high school class do you know? I know Piedmont, wasn't a big place, but did you have most every man from your graduating class go into the service?
No, I don't remember. They were all scattered out in different places, and some of them went to the war, and I don't remember actually any of them. I met a couple of people from Piedmont that wasn't in my class, but they were stationed in Hawaii at the same time I was. But I just thought, thank God that I got to be able to come back to Piedmont. Yeah. Now I've got, like I said, my 2 children, and I've got 3 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. That's
great. And you enjoy them all?
Yeah, oh yeah. Sure.
Are they close, or?
Yeah, every one of them are close.
That's good. I'm glad that you get to spend time with them. Do you share your stories of World War II at all with them, or?
Well, they've not here long enough to hardly to. We always have a good Thanksgiving thing, Christmas and all that kind of stuff, but I see them practically every day.
Do you ever go on any reunions with your former?
No, I haven't been to any of the reunions.
Is there any place that you served that you would like to ever go back to, or it was just something that happened in life and you're just done?
I wouldn't mind going back to New Zealand, but as far as any place where I was in war yet, I didn't hear anything about going back.
It's a beautiful place. What most impacted you in World War II? I know it's a difficult question, but what changed you most as a man from having served World War II and seeing some of the most ferocious fighting really in the war? What changed in your life and in your outlook on life?
Well, I guess I had to change because of the war. It was something different that you go through with, and you don't know how you get out, and you don't know how you got in. But it was a good thing when I signed those discharge papers. They wanted to know if I wanted to sign up for the Army again. I said, well, no, I don't reckon so. Well, thought I'd better come back home.
God got you through and wanted you in Piedmont.
Yeah.
And I know, you have hanging up here in your house all those medals. I'm going to name them off. Saying here, during your time in World War II, you received the American Defense Medal, 2 Bronze Stars, the Combat Infantry Award, the Army Good Conduct Medal, the Asiatic Pacific Campaign.
September.
That's what I was wondering. So she waited out the war while you were there. You hadn't talked with her during the. Were you able to? I know you said you were able to write a little bit, but that was about it. Were you able to get mail at all from her?
Yeah, yeah.
And she left the Philippines and came back, went to Virginia. And then what were your duties once you got to Virginia?
Well, I got on a ship and came through South Carolina and went to Georgia. I was discharged in Fort Gordon, Georgia.
And what were your feelings like when you finally discharged? Just relief?
Yeah, relief. What am I going to do now?
And I was going to ask you about looking back at your experiences over there. Did you ever feel like it wasn't going to end?
Well, it seemed to me like that, yes.
So you got back and you were in Georgia, you were discharged. And you were discharged in, actually, where were you when the atomic bomb was dropped? The first and the second?
I was here in Piedmont. I reckon, wasn't it? What, you got a date on that?
Now you're putting me on the spot. I believe, I might be incorrect on this, but I know, gosh, I have in my mind it was August.
Seemed like it might have been. Might have been sometime in August.
I'm not positive on that, and I wish I knew that off the top of my head. So you would have been back up here, or were you still would have been in Georgia if you think on that?
I was here.
You were here.
Here,
Okay.
yeah.
Did you, and I'm sure I know you watch a close eye on the Pacific, and did you still have friends over there that you thought a lot about that were still fighting, or?
Well, I just had troop that I fought with. I didn't have too many friends that they, like I told you, the best friend I had was from Pennsylvania, and
he was there with you
he
through,
was there.
through everything?
Yeah, he finally he got home.
Did you leave at the same time or around the same time?
Sometime around about the same time, I think.
You fought together most of the time as you?
Yeah, and I went
were
up to
out
see him one time. Another friend of mine was in the used car business, so we went up there to get some used cars, and we saw him, and we was in the snow too.
Cool. Now, so what did you feel like? I mean, of course, no one's going to know about the atomic bomb. Did you feel that an invasion? I know you thought invasion of Japan was coming. What were your feelings on that?
Well, I hated to see it happen, but something had to be done to stop the war, and I think that's what did it. And seemed like we always butt in somebody else's business and get involved with a war, something like that. But that was one that we had to. They made us be in this one. But when I got back home, I signed a baseball contract with Greenville Spinners.
Just semi-pro. What was that? Were you affiliated with a major league club at all in Greenville?
Well, it was with the Dodgers.
And
They sent me to Anderson in '46.
And what was the hardest part about adjusting to being back in South Carolina? Was it difficult coming back home, and had things changed much since you'd been gone?
Well, it had been changed a good bit. Of course, I had to find a job. Like I said, I signed a contract and played semi-pro ball for 2 years. Played in Anderson '46, and then went to Florida and played in 1947. And then I hurt my arm in '47, but I came back to Piedmont and got a job in the cotton mill. Went to work with them and played baseball.
And you'd been.
So that's where
You left for the Philippines from New Zealand. And what were your feelings? You were briefed before you left, I think, in New Zealand, or did you head out to sea and then were alerted that you were headed for the Philippines?
Well, we didn't know exactly where we were going, but when we landed on Luzon, we could turn right. Could go to Manila, turn left, go up in the mountains. That's where the Japanese were. So that's where we went.
Went to the Japanese.
Yeah, went to the left up in the mountains.
And who was your commanding? You had been under MacArthur.
Oh well.
Eventually.
Well, the biggest part of that, yeah.
Did you ever see MacArthur at all, or I know he was pretty much behind the scenes?
Film, that's all I saw him.
And so you all headed to the jungles, and when you went to the jungles, I know you probably dug more foxholes again.
Yeah.
And what kind of things did you do in the jungles they had patrols? I know the Japanese were probably hidden throughout, and they just give you a mission to go take a certain area.
That's right.
What was the most scared you were ever during the war? I know you have had so many experiences, but what was one of the most scared times you've ever been?
Well, one of the, I don't know what, we had one of our boys that was wounded, and at that time I was a corporal, I believe, and I was in charge of a platoon, not a platoon, a squad, and me and another friend carried him on stretcher back to wherever they had the hospitals, and in between that and where our troops were, we were by ourselves. Never did see another Japanese there. So we got him at the hospital pretty well, and I can't remember his name and anything about it, but I remember that part of carrying him back to safety.
How far was the carry?
Oh, probably several miles.
Wow. And I was going to ask you, I know, I'll wait till later in the interview. I guess I want to talk with you some about some of your medals and citations. Did you receive a medal at all for carrying that man
No.
back to the hospital?
No.
Okay, so now in the Philippines, you were in the Philippines for how long battling?
I'm not exactly sure. I've forgotten when we went in there in 43, I guess. 43, maybe 44. But Roosevelt died when I was in the Philippines.
What was the mood like around the forces?
Well, it was just like it was in the other place, because we were all in our foxholes and heard that he had passed away. And there's a lot of sorrow that we didn't know what might happen then, who was going to take over and what was going to happen to us. But I was getting to the point to where I had enough points to come back home.
I was going to ask you how that worked out.
That was in June, I guess, of 1945.
So because you had served for so long,
Yeah.
they could choose to send you back.
Yeah.
And and I'm sure you would have taken it, they alert you at all that you were getting close at all to be able to go back, or?
Yeah. We could either come back on a plane or a ship. I decided to come home on a ship. It took us over 30-something days to come back to Virginia. We landed in Virginia when we came back.
And during your time though overseas, I know, did you write home? Were you able to write letters home to your family at all, or?
No, I didn't write too much, except one of them more my girlfriend.
And she lived in Piedmont.
Yes, we finished school together.
And what wound up happening with her?
Well, we got married and set all this one there.
And what kind of weapons did you use on Guadalcanal? You had a machine gun again, or did you have a?
No, I was in the mortars.
You're in the mortars.
I had 81 millimeter mortar.
Would they call into you, radio into you, what positions to hit, and you would fire on the different locations?
They would do that, and then I would observe, get up on a hill and observe what was going on in front of us. And you could see some of the Japanese some of the times. Then you start firing.
Did you have to worry about, ammunition running out, not enough mortars, or?
We had to worry about it at nighttime, when it's Japanese would call your name out sometime.
So they knew the locations
They heard you talking during the daytime, I reckon.
They would come back. Did they ever any ambush attacks at night, or?
Well, very few of those that we saw. The only one time I remember that they had tanks that was coming down the highways, and we didn't know what to do then. Like I said, we started digging our foxholes a little bit before that. And it's a good thing nobody's mentioned anything, because it was all real quiet. Because if they'd have seen us, they'd have killed all everybody. But they passed on by us, and finally our artillery took care of that problem.
Now, the battle, I know Guadalcanal lasted a while. How long were you on Guadalcanal? You said 10 months.
10 months.
And the victory you knew, I know that there were still Japanese in the hills. Did you fear once Guadalcanal was taken that there would be another attack from the Japanese at all that were still left? Or
we thought we had control of it pretty much so, but I don't think we were too much observed that there were too many left, you know. But they'd been there long enough to build anything they wanted to build, and there was some of them that had their home under the ground.
What was most difficult? I know, I mentioned before, my grandfather was a World War II vet, but he mentioned how thankful he was he never fought the Japanese. What was most difficult about fighting the Japanese? I know the surrender and the never surrender clause and the pride of the Japanese was tough, but what was most difficult and terrifying to you about fighting them?
Well, you hate to fight. You hate to kill somebody. But, it was necessary, so we just had to do what we had to do.
So
they wanted the island, and we wanted it too, so it worked that way. They would come over at night. Charlie, I believe, was the name of the plane that we always thought would be there at night. They'd drop bombs at night, and thank the Lord that it never did come too close to us. So.
And on Guadalcanal, what kind of day-to-day things would you do once the island was taken? What were you mainly working on? Structures, helping reinforce
replacing troops, and replacing the artillery, and getting ready for what we were going to do. We didn't know what we were going to do. Like I said, we went to New Zealand after that. Stayed a few months. I've forgotten how many months we stayed on New Zealand. But we did get in a lot more troops, and after that we went into Luzon in the Philippines.
Now in New Zealand, so you were stationed where in New Zealand? Were you on the North Island or the South Island in New Zealand, or?
I was. I forgot now.
And but you thought it was a beautiful country. What all did you do in New Zealand?
Well, we spent a little time in town with the girls and all that kind of stuff.
New Zealand girls pretty?
There's a lot of sailors and soldiers too there.
And so was New Zealand your most enjoyable experience of the war, if you could even say
yes,
enjoyable?
it was one of them, yes. Yeah.
And so you're in New Zealand, and you said...
But from that time on, while we had guards at night, and anything that moved was shot or bayoneted, dogs, such stuff. But we started digging trenches and things along the beach, and they assigned us to put barbed wire fence around Waikiki Beach, and it was still there when the war was over, I reckon.
So you felt a Japanese invasion was it was coming.
I thought somebody knew that I think they knew that we were going to be attacked.
And where were you when Roosevelt declared war? Did you listen to the announcement on the radio at all, or you just everybody knew?
I don't remember the first place I heard that. Probably on the radio, but.
And so, did you realize at the time, though, how brutal World War II was going to be? Did you kind of understand the gravity of the situation and think about where you might be sent and what would happen? Or was just kind of all so quick? And
it all comes to us quick. We didn't think about much of anything. It was trying to be safe.
So after the incident at Pearl Harbor, you spent how many more weeks or months in Hawaii?
We left Hawaii in December of 1942.
Okay.
So we were there a year after the war started.
And from there, I mean, of course, I'm sure you listened to you knew the reports, and the Japanese were making kind of tearing through the Pacific, and so you knew it was really only a matter of time before you would be sent out, or did you feel you were going to finish?
Word was around all over the base and everywhere that we were going to either Alaska or back in the United States for maneuvers.
And so
we ended up at Guadalcanal.
That's what I was going to ask. That was not very lucky, but so you ended up at Guadalcanal, and you were stationed there for how long?
We were on Guadalcanal for 10 months.
And
the only people there was the Marines and the Mosquitoes and the Japanese and us.
And how long were you there until the fighting started happening?
Well, it happened on the beach.
Of
course, the Marines, like I say, were there before we were. But we went on up through the islands, and the reason that they wanted Guadalcanal was that there was an airport there, and it took quite a while to get to it. And I think about maybe 40 or 50 years later, we saw some Japanese coming out of holes that had been there ever since the war started.
And when you made the landings, you were, what wave were you a day behind, or had you were on the day landing on Guadalcanal, you were there, right behind the Marines, you said?
Yeah.
And were you scared on landing on the beaches at all, or?
Oh yeah.
Yes, I know. What were your feelings when you were in landing craft, right, that came in, and were you on landing craft that landed on the beach?
We didn't know what was going to happen, but we landed on the beach.
And from the get-go, where did you go? I mean, I know that they directed the troops through the jungle, but I mean, I know the fear you had to feel like you could be ambushed from either side. What kind of battle experiences did you have on Guadalcanal?
Well, the Japanese had full control of it till the United States got there, and we had a lot of moving going on through the island. Of course, I don't remember, but I believe the island was only 5 miles wide and about 25 miles long. Seemed to me like that's what it was. But the Japanese had been there for years, so they had everything set up like they wanted it. So it's kind of hard to find foxholes that they were in, because they were covered up so much that they had them real well. But we had problems, a lot of problems with the Japanese army. That thank the Lord that we got through it.
Yes. And I know the fighting, a lot of hand-to-hand combat, I would assume.
Some of that was there too.
Did you have to go to foxhole and try to find the Japanese at all, or?
The only thing I had to dig foxholes, and most of the time I had to dig them bigger than anybody else, because I was the top. Well, like I said, played basketball and then later baseball, which was good for me, because a lot of drills I didn't have to do when I was on that particular thing, and the only time I was on KP was between basketball and baseball.
Did you get to see much of Oahu at all? Would you go out, you know, Honolulu
Oh, a
at
good
all?
bit, good bit. Spent a lot of time in Honolulu.
It was a good place to be stationed. So you enjoyed the military right off the bat?
Oh, well, it was a lot different.
Yeah, a little bit different from Piedmont, South Carolina. And what duties did you do on base? Were you assigned for? You mentioned KP. What kind of was your daily life kind of like?
Well, the drilling. Start out, it was drilling and getting used to it and everything, and finding out what we're supposed to do. So they taught us about the heavy weapons that the company had. Of course, I was put in a squad of machine guns, and of course we did have mortars, which was bigger than the machine gun. And 81 millimeter mortars, what they put me in after the war started.
What was your favorite? Did you prefer the machine guns or the mortars?
I preferred the mortars.
And just because you mentioned you're farther back. And okay, so you'd been on Oahu for a while and gone through. Now, December 7th, I know you were involved with Pearl Harbor, and you know what had been kind of when you woke up that morning. How were you awakened? What happened at Pearl Harbor?
We were awakened by loud noises. We didn't know exactly what it was, and I think there was 3 of us that was in the barracks because the rest of the company and the whole division was down in Honolulu on maneuvers. But the reason I was playing basketball, so I didn't have to go. So we went downstairs and turned the radio on, and they started announcing about the Japanese were attacked in Pearl Harbor, and they came right over Pearl Harbor. They came right over Schofield Barracks, going to Pearl Harbor, and they were strafing barracks. They knocked out the airport that we had there, Wheeler Field, in Schofield.
Did you have any friends killed during the fighting at all, or knew of any casualties at Schofield?
I don't remember of any right that particular day. I'm sure there were probably some. But,
so when they made the announcement to you that the Japanese were attacking, what did you do?
Well, we heard the planes, and they veered off 2 or 3 planes in Schofield. So we went down and broke into the supply room. And, well, you did get a machine gun out and started shooting at Japanese plane. Of course, I don't reckon we ever hit one, but there's a possibility that we could have burned it up because it was a water-cooled machine gun.
And I'd heard that they got burned. They just melted down in there. So you didn't plug in. You didn't have the water cooled set up at all.
No, we didn't have time anyway to do anything.
So how many were out there with you firing those machine guns?
There was 3 of us, I think, probably 3.
Just 3. And were a lot of aircraft destroyed at the airfield, and
they destroyed most of it. Most of it there at Wheeler Field.
Were you scared at all? I mean, I'm sure you were a little bit. But
didn't actually know what was going on at the time.
You just knew somebody was attacking.
You could see the Japanese in the plane as they buried over us. We didn't know exactly what was going on downtown Honolulu.
So after the Japanese left, did they call you to Pearl Harbor to have to help?
They moved us all down to our outfits in Honolulu. And then we started staying awake and guard at night because we felt sure that the Japanese troops would be coming in. Thank Lord they didn't come in. Because they could have probably taken the island if they had the troops.
This interview is being conducted for the Veterans History Project for the Library of Congress. This is Milford Howard. He was born January 25th, 1922. He served in the Pacific during World War II. He achieved the rank of Staff Sergeant. We are recording this on November 29th, 2012. I'm Schuyler Easterling, and I'm conducting the interview, no relation. Okay, Mr. Howard, while we get started here, tell me a little bit about your childhood here. You grew up in Piedmont, South Carolina, and just a little bit about your background growing up here in Piedmont.
I don't remember that far back, but I did. I was actually born in Anderson County, but moved as far as I know it. Last on Main Street, Piedmont is the other place I remember actually. But I went to Piedmont High School and finished in 1940. That's when I decided, well, I went to work in the cotton mill the last year of my high school. I decided I wanted to do something else, so a friend and I went to Greenville to several different offices, recruiting offices. They finally accepted me in the Army.
And did you have any family members that had served in the military at all, or?
No.
No? It was just kind of something you wanted to do. So you left, so you graduated high school in 1940, went to Greenville, signed up. Where was the first place that you went to after enlisting in the Army?
Went to Charleston,
Charleston,
South Carolina.
And you were stationed?
Fort Moultrie.
Okay. At Fort Moultrie. And you were there for a while and went through basic training there?
I was there, we left, I came home one weekend. And we left, I don't remember when we left Charleston, but we landed on Oahu, which is Hawaii, November the 1st, 1940.
Were you excited about going to Hawaii at all, or?
Well, never had been, so.
Yeah, something new.
But the recruiting sergeant that I talked to had signed me up for the Philippines. And I called back up there when I got home, and it wouldn't have made any difference. I'd have probably gone on anyway, but I asked him if he didn't have an opening somewhere else. So he looked around a few minutes and said, I got one opening in Hawaii. I said, well, give it to me.
Not a bad replacement.
So he did.
When you had signed up, had you thought at all about war could possibly come in with Hitler's movements in Europe? Had it ever occurred to you, or
didn't think a thing about it?
Just signed up.
Somebody knew that it was coming, though. I think I'm pretty sure.
So you left Charleston and went to Oahu.
Then they assigned me to Company D, 25th Infantry Division, 27th Infantry.
What was it hard adjusting to life in the Army at all, or what was?
Well, not especially. I kind of got to play a little basketball over there, and then they signed me up to play with the division regiment, so that helped out a little bit.
And in basketball, I mean, you played on the base, and I've heard stories that you were semi-pro. Now, was that later that you turned?
Yeah, I played baseball in 1941.
Gotcha. Well, I'll go back to Hawaii. So you were stationed on the base, and you worked with the Navy.
I was stationed at Schofield Barracks.
Schofield Barracks, okay.
That's just.
And you had your commanders were all good. Did you have any good experiences with commanders, or any bad ones in particular?
Any what?
Any bad commanders or good commanders you were experienced with?
No, they seemed to be all in the Army.
And were you the only South Carolinian there? Did you have some other?
No, I don't know. I'm sure I wasn't. But my best friend was from Pennsylvania.
Okay. And how did you meet him?
Through the service. He was in the same company, same outfit.
Is he still living at all, or?
No, he passed away several years ago.
Oh, I hate to hear that. So 1940, and you probably arrived at Pearl Harbor around that area in Oahu in mid 1940 or late 1940.
1940,
Okay.
November 1st, 1940.
And so you served a year. What kind of things would you do on base when you had free time?